bears my last name too. I should go visit.
Yeah, it's a really special place. So special that the nuns worry because the deer feel so safe there. So they're always worried, that something's going to happen because the deer are so kind of naive and gullible. Just because it's so peaceful. Someone has their hand up. Oh, George Joyner. Okay. I just promoted him. All right. So everybody, it is 3 o'clock. So I will get started. Welcome. Let me hit. There's Bill Nunk. Hi, Bill. Oh, I hit record. It's a miracle. Very often I forget, and we have typically about 5 seconds of me hair flipping as the recording, which nobody wants to watch. So we've got this recorded, and just a reminder, we are on Facebook Live, and we do replay on our website. So we don't get as much on the Zoom as we used to. A lot of people are back to work, so 3 o'clock on a Monday or 2 o'clock on a Monday is challenging, but we are getting a huge amount of participation in all of our programs. So we're grateful to have you guys here. So my name is Jennifer Marr. I am the chairwoman of the Putnam County Business Council, and welcome to Business TalkBack. We haven't been here for a while, which is good. That means things have been going in the right direction. My panelists here can remember when it was just a constant 24/7 chasing news urgently, and it's calmed down quite a bit. And here, at least, things are going in the right direction. And if we all continue to wear masks and practice social distancing, I'm very confident that that can continue in that direction. Just a couple of announcements. We have been doing a series. We partnered up with the Westchester Business Council, Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors, as well as some other business leadership organizations throughout the Hudson Valley to bring a series of educational programs regarding racial equality and inclusivity for business owners, also in dealing with issues with employees regarding those issues. And they are running every Thursday. No, I was going to say every Tuesday, but they're not. They're running the next 3 Tuesdays we'll have, and then the next 3 Thursdays, and then the next 3 Tuesdays. If you're interested in those, again, you can find that on our website, putnamcountybusinesscouncil.com, and we will be getting access to the replay. So again, you can watch it at your convenience. So this afternoon, we have a chock full agenda. And we want to try to end on time, and very excited. Actually, Kathleen Abels, who's not on, connected me with our first speaker, who is Huey-Min Chuang. I hope I said it right.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. Only took me 20 practices. And who is the Senior Director of Business and Economic Development for Empire State Development. And she wants to talk to us today about a New York Forward Loan Fund. And before I turn the mic over, we will then be hearing who now we consider like our resident expert on economic development finance, John Schneider, Schneider Financial. And then we will go to a question and answer period. And then we will get some updates from EDC, EIDL, tourism, and hopefully if we have time, score, and try to end by 4. So I will be keeping us on task. And at that, I will turn it over to you, Wei.
Thank you so much, Jennifer and Lisa, for inviting me to host this webinar together for the county members, as well as the county small businesses in general who are listening to this presentation or are joining us live. So I represent the state of New York. And so this program is sponsored through the state of New York and the governor's office as well. So I just want to let you know that the resources for this program, it is funded by the state of New York. So I will be speaking to you for the next 20 minutes or so on the New York Forward Loan Fund. So what is New York Forward Loan Fund? New York Forward Loan Fund is a new economic recovery loan program aimed at supporting New York State small businesses, nonprofits, and small landlords as they reopen after COVID-19 outbreak and after New York State has opened after being on pause for a few months. It targets the state small businesses that have 20 or fewer employees, which we have seen that is over 90% of all businesses, and nonprofits, as well as small landlords that may have loss of rental income in the last few months. So it's a loan program geared towards this type of businesses, and it's also providing capital through the loan fund for working capital uses for up to $100,000. And it's time to support businesses for inventory, marketing, refitting for no social distancing guidelines under the New York Forward Plan. Just a reminder, these loans are available to small business and nonprofits and small landlords that did not receive a PPP loan or have applied to either EIDL loan or any other small business administration disaster loan programs. These loans are for 5 years. They're not forgivable in part or in whole, and the first year is interest only, with the 4 years remainder of the term straight line amortization, interest, and principal repayment equally for the 4 remaining years. So for those people who already are in the Putnam County that have reopened, as well as phased in for the facings, I believe that all 4 phases are pretty much in, except maybe for theaters and maybe entertainment, large-scale entertainment gatherings. So for those who are not yet opened, please visit our ESD resources contact page, where you find more information about how you can prepare for this application once you're allowed to reopen, and also just to understand more about how the program works and what documentation you may want to gather, so that as soon as you're open and you require the working capital needs, then you can submit the application for underwriting with a match lender. So currently we have $100 million in the fund, and we have allocated 65% of all loan fund for small business use, and 30% for small landlords, and 5% for nonprofit organizations. So all pre-applications are currently open for you to submit, and you can visit www.nyloanfund.com. Once again, you can visit the pre-application at www.nyloanfund.com. And for those who are still wondering whether they are ready to be opened, what phases they are in, and what industry are really allowed to open or not, please visit this website at forward.ny.gov, forward.ny.gov. That will give you all the information through the zip code and the NYSIC code for your business to see whether you are in a phase that is really allowed to open. So of the $100 million, we have a target goal for Mid-Hudson region of 12% of total funds. So that will be for 12 millions in total that has to be allocated to Mid-Hudson, and 60% of the entire funding available has to be geared to MWBE utilization. So that means anyone who declares themselves a women-owned business, a minority-owned business, or veteran business, or LGBTQ could qualify as one of the targeted 60% of all funds to be utilized for this region. So we particularly would like the help of the business council members who are self-declared minority or women-owned businesses to apply to the program, because we really would like to carve out funding for those who were unable to receive PPP or EIDL loan, or they have not applied to those. So how do you find the application? Again, you can go to www.nyloanfund.com, and there you'll find a page similar to this one you see on the right-hand side. You're going to have a top bar where you talk about the overview of the program, the terms of the loan, the business requirements. If you do not remember what I may tell you during this presentation, you can go there. They'll give you specific there for the type of business that you may be eligible to apply. You could also look at the frequently asked questions that people have submitted so far. And here is where you go find the pre-application, which you click on to actually get access to the 16 question, yes or no, pretty simple, straightforward, estimated number application form, which you complete there. Once you complete the 16 questions that have been asked, you'll be matched to one of the 5 community development financial institution lender that have accepted application as well as participating in the program. Who are these 5 CDFIs that are community-based? For small business applications, you're likely to be matched with one of these 4 here. That will be Axion East, National Development Council Impact Loan Fund, Pursuit, and True Fund Financial Services. So at the end of a 16 question Q&A, sort of like question and answers for you to fill in, you'll get to a portal page that says, okay, now you're ready to be matched. And based on what you may have answered about how much you're going to ask for what use is the loan for, and how many years have been business, what industry you're in, you'll be matched to one of these lenders. And they will basically be there for you to get to know, but also finally to pick one out of the ones that you got matched with for you to proceed with your application. So for nonprofit applications, you'll be matched only with either one of these two lenders, a National Development Council Impact Loan Fund or True Fund Financial Services. For small landlords, you only have one choice if you get matched. That will be Community Preservation Corporation, which is hosted through HCR, through Housing Community Preservation Community Corporation of the state of New York. Let's see. So now I'm going to go through some of the criteria for small business applicants for this program. So like I said before, the New York Forward Loan Fund program is a 5-year loan up to $100,000. So how do you determine the amount that you're going to submit for application, and how much are you qualified for up to $100,000? Well, it's going to be the lesser of $100,000, or B, up to the 3-month average of your total revenue prior to COVID-19 outbreak. So for example, if last year your total revenue was $120,000 for fiscal year 2019, your average revenue is $10,000. So you would take $10,000 times 3, that would be $30,000. So if your total revenue last year was $120,000, that means that for this application, you submit for a maximum of $30,000. And if your example is a larger revenue, then you can apply up to the lesser of that 100,000 or the 3-month average. The interest rate for small business loan under this program would be capped at basically 3% throughout the 5-year term. Like I said, 12 months interest only and 5-year repayment period. The use of proceeds are for working capital, and those are typically whatever expenses you see for your type of business throughout the 1-year period that recurs. So you could also use this funds for emergency maintenance or refitting for social distancing guideline, like I said before, or pay property taxes, additional type of utility you may need for special services that you may need for outdoor dining, for example, or supplies or extra expenses that you may have for a typical operating type of business that you run. These proceeds cannot be used for refinancing. So if you have an existing loan with a larger interest rate, you cannot actually refinance through this program. You definitely would have to specify the use of funds when you do apply. There are no application fees, no collateral is required, and no prepayment penalties. And if you are late in your payments, you will have to pay the late fees associated with the lender policies. You are eligible to apply as a small business if you have fewer than 20 full-time equivalent employees, have a gross revenue of less than $3 million per year, and have not received a PPP or EIDL loan in 2020, have suffered a direct economic hardship as a result of COVID-19, and at least have been in business for 1 year as the date of the application and be headquartered in New York to do business. So once you submit it, you must determine whether you have all the ownership that own more than 20% of the business in the application. They will be required to attest to the information provided. So what type of businesses are not eligible besides the criteria of having fewer than 20 employees and under 3 million for small businesses? If you own a corporate franchise, for example, the typical Main Street businesses, such as, I guess, most of the burger joints or any other franchise, you're not eligible to apply for this program. If you run a social club for a nonprofit, that would not be applicable. Branch banks, payday loans, pawn shops, astrology palm reading, liquor stores, nightclubs, adult bookstore, massage parlors, strip clubs, track racing facilities, trailer storage yards, and marijuana dispensaries. If you run a winery, for example, if you produce wine in your region and you happen to have a wine tasting room that you actually do generate income, that is eligible for this particular application. So a small business owner applicant have to provide the following documentation when they're ready to submit. You must provide a copy of your most recently filed tax return if available and required by the lender. Or if you do not have it, please assure your internally generated income statements or other documentation that could be used to provide evidence of your cash flow. Schedule of ownership. So we're gonna ask for personal information that includes name, address, social security number, phone number, email, percentage ownership, photo ID for any of the owners with more than 20% ownership. And you will be required to sign off on an attestation form that will be provided by the lender. And like I said, you're going to have to describe briefly how COVID impacted your businesses, as well as your job and revenues. And a legal copy of your legal formation will be required, and a personal credit report may be pulled if applicable. Once you provide these sets of documents with the match lender, you will work directly with the match lender for any information, updates, or explanations you'd like to provide. I'm going to move on to small landlords. So for small landlords, it's very similar to the small business terms in terms of 5 years up to $100,000. The calculation for how much you can apply for is based on the projected reduction in the 3 months net operating income based on actual losses of income for the month of April, May, or June, since we're already in July. So what that means is if last year in the month of April, you typically receive $100,000 in rent collection, like rental income, and somehow because a lot of people were unable to pay you and you only collected $50,000, you have a net loss of $50,000 for the month of April. So you can apply for 3 times of that, which is $150,000. However, it maxes out, the program maxes out at the lesser of $100,000 or smaller number of that. So basically in this case, you max out $100,000 you can apply for the program. Since you did qualify up to 150, but for this program, you max that 100. $100,000 is what you should put in the application when you actually submit the pre-application. The interest rate is the same as for the small business. The landlord is capped at 3%, 5-year term, and 1 first year interest only, 4-year straight line amortization schedule. Same use of proceeds for working capital, no borrowing fees, no collateral is required, and you can prepay without penalty. Late payments will be assessed a fee. The eligibility for the landlord is a little bit different. For landlords, you should not have more than 200 units under ownership, and no single property should have greater than 50 units. These units should be located in a low or moderate income census tract or meet a rent test where property rents are affordable to tenants of low or moderate incomes. The property must have a positive cash flow for the last 12 months period prior to the loan request. And the property must have an active forbearance agreement in place for their mortgage or have proof that they have not missed a monthly debt service payment in the last 12 months or that they have no active mortgage. This particular point is to make sure that you have cash flow to be able to pay back your loan once you actually get approved. So we want to make sure that you are already you are in good standing prior to application, or if not, you already have a forbearance agreement so that we can see that the lender has allowed that you actually can extend the payment schedule so that you can continue to operate as a property owner. The property must be also current in your property tax payments through March 2020. And the property owner should also not evict COVID impacted non-paying tenants if that is the case after receiving the funds. And they should also not have bad, like they should have a good record for good repairs for the property that they own with no life or safety violations in place. So continuing with the documentation and eligibility for small landlords who have not received the PPP loan or EIDL loan can access this program. They should evidence that they have suffered a direct economic hardship as a result of COVID-19. They must be in business at least for 1 year as the date of the application, and the properties must be located in the state of New York. So whatever application you submit with the match lender, any owner who owns more than 20% will have to attest to the information provided. What documentation should you gather with your accountant or your team at this point before you apply? Please gather your most recently filed tax return, your 2019 income and expense statements for the properties, your property rent roll showing economic impact and schedule of ownership for anyone who owns more than 20%, a certification to be provided by the lender, and also a letter of hardship that you specify how COVID-19 impacted your business for jobs and revenues, If you need to provide a forbearance disclosure statement, as discussed in the prior slide, and also evidence of your legal formation as a business of entity in New York State. A personal credit report could be pulled or not, depending on the lender. So work with the lender to make sure that your documentation is complete and they will underwrite it, and either you will be funded or disqualified. For nonprofits, I'm going to go through some of the specific details for nonprofits. Nonprofits are also eligible to apply up to $100,000. And the way you calculate the maximum of how much a nonprofit should apply for is the average monthly expense times 3. So if in 2019, the average monthly expense is also $50,000, then you can apply for up to $100,000, which is the smaller of the $150,000 that we have in this example. And for nonprofits, the interest rate is lower. It's actually going to be at 2% for 5 years. Interest only for first year of the 12 months payment, and for month 13 to 60 is straight line amortization schedule. So what can the nonprofit use this money for? They could also use it for working capital of a typical nonprofit that they operate, showing whatever typical expense that utilizes these funds. Refinancing will not be allowed for these applicants, and the loan applicant is definitely required to anticipate and also write down the use of these funds when they apply. Same as the small business and landlord's loan, no borrowing fees, no recourse is required, and prepayment is not penalized. For the documentation and eligibility for nonprofits, nonprofits should be a 501c3 or faith-based organization that is eligible to apply. However, the funding cannot be used to support direct religious worship or activity related to worship. That means that if you are providing legal aid, daycare, food bank services, soup kitchen, after school programs, senior services, educational programs, clothing banks, all those are eligible uses of these funds, just not direct worship of like Sunday church services. You should also have 20 or fewer full-time equivalent employees, under $3 million in your operating budget, and have not received PPP loan or EIDL loan in 2020, suffer an economic hardship as a direct result of COVID, been in operation for at least 1 year, and located in the state of New York. Lastly, for nonprofits, please gather your financial statements, your 990 forms, if filed with the IRS for 2019, evidence of your legal formation, like your articles of incorporations or bylaws, and a certification attesting to your need for these funds. And also any member who are management team of the nonprofit would be providing personal information and signing off on this request. They should also provide documentation from the nonprofit board, providing approval and resolution that they can undertake the loan. And a brief description of how they got impacted based on COVID on the organization as the overall. As an example of like how the nonprofit was impacted to be able to access these funds. The lender will work with each of the nonprofit applicants, and whatever documentation that is additional to what's requested here will be negotiated with the underwriter. So I'm going to hold off on the questions because I believe we're going to have the next speaker talk first, and we're going to actually answer questions at the end.
Yes, and just thank you so much. I've already sent this out to a bunch of my landlord clients, so I appreciate it very much, you bringing this to us. And also, if you would put your contact information in the chat box for everybody, that would be very helpful. And thanks for sticking around for our next speaker. And then after Mr. Schneider goes, we will go to the question and answers. So okay, John, come on, catch us up, John. What have you been up to?
I have just been working to make sure that our client base is continuing to be able to not only get the funds that they need for the appropriate cash flow to continue to operate their businesses, but we have begun the forgiveness period. Right now, a lot of our clients are looking to get the 8-week forgiveness period started, but the typical roadblock right now is in regards to the lender's ability to begin the forgiveness process. So we continue to just have them reach out to their lenders individually to see what their packages are. And we're just doing the evaluation now if we're at an 8-week forgiveness period or a 24-week forgiveness period. We have picked up a few new clients recently, and I think this is good news for anyone who wasn't able to get on the first or second available PPP loan program. A couple weeks ago, it was extended out, and now it's eligible through August 8th for applications in there. It really is probably a once in a business lifetime program where the government is giving away these grants, and there's literally millions of businesses that have benefited under this, with tens of millions of employees that have benefited under this. So it's while the feedback we had originally been receiving from the onset was a fast, sloppy implementation of a process, it is understood that it was going to be difficult between the federal level, the state level, the lenders, and everybody getting on the same page to authorize one of the biggest lending programs I think ever initiated under any government or any society that I know of. So we're happy to see so many of our clients have been able to not only receive the PPP funds, but the EIDL loans have been flowing through as well. Right now, we have a lot of clients who were doing analysis to see they've bounced back very quickly after they've been able to have their business pivot, what their business models were and how they delivered their services. We're seeing great revenues on a lot of our construction companies right now. We're still having a very close eye on all of our personal care clients, as well as anyone who's involved in recreation or tourism, as well as food services. We still keep a very close eye on that as we continue to adjust to this new business model that we live in. And we just continue to try to discuss what the options are for our clients out there. EIDL is still open. PPP is still open. 2 great programs. One completely forgiven under the PPP, possibly if you meet the criteria. And the second with the EIDL is money for businesses at a fixed rate for an extremely long term. Again, a program that's never really been done. And I don't think that there will ever see long-term money like this available again for businesses. So if you haven't had the opportunity to get in there yet, you definitely should. We did have a few clients who had received some communication. They didn't finalize an application, so they were received notification that they can reapply again now. So it is definitely worthwhile if you're looking for means for cash flow to have a discussion with your accountant, to have a discussion with whoever handles your management on your financials, and then to at least be able to implement whatever it may be that your business needs to ensure that you're able to be successful as we come out of this COVID period of business.
Excellent. What's your take on this loan that Huey-Min just presented?
I think it's very nice to see that there are so many different programs coming out there that try to make money available for so many people. The difficult part is with this loan, you can't have gotten a PPP loan. You can't have gotten an EIDL loan. So I have a couple clients I could think of who could benefit from it, but they would be clients who unfortunately would be phased out only because they don't meet the criteria of being in business for less than a year. That's the one set of clients that we've only had 2 clients really affected truly negatively where they haven't been able to get financing through any loan programs. And it's because they've had such a short business life already. Fortunately, going into business, we did have very long discussions about cash flow and making sure that we had enough assets in reserves that we can ensure that we would be able to get through a good business startup. But I don't think anyone ever would have predicted anything like what we started seeing in March through now. But it is nice to see. I know a lot of different organizations, business organizations, state agencies, as well as federal agencies are looking to get a lot of money readily available to flow out to businesses. But we still have, presently about a little bit less than 20% of the funds from the PPP, 670 astronomical numbers that we've never seen before, still available. So right. I think it's nice to know that money's available, but I think it's also extremely important to understand the cash flow management and how much debt businesses are taking on, especially when you have shorter repayment terms. So I think it's more about a discussion of what you need and what's available and how you're able to implement it. And sometimes it's not always about taking the money that's available, but sometimes passing up on that money because it doesn't make sense for your particular business situation.
Yeah, I would probably agree with Jonathan's point of view in terms of what's the best match for your business. So for example, if you have access to PPP and that's what is best helping your business, please do go ahead and apply to that, because that, like he said, is forgivable. And 60% is for salary and 40% is for working capital use. But if you actually have greater needs than that and you can get a much larger amount, and maybe overall it works out best for your business, perhaps 100% working capital loan may make more sense. But I would not be able to tell you which one to apply, but certainly work with your financial advisor. Like Jonathan seems like he would know about all the programs. That will be a great recourse to actually talk to someone to see what's best for you.
Agreed. Thank you, Huey-Min. And also I have a request if you could share the presentation and then we will attach it to our replay.
Yeah, so what I will do is I will send you to a link that has additional resources underneath it that has a presentation of what I covered today, plus the actual question that get asked on the application, and also a slide on the resources where you can go to if you need some help with completing the application or even getting the documents or any other needs you may have that you're a small business and you may want a different kind of loan that we may be offering today here, but basically the SBDCs locally or the Entrepreneur Assistance Center that the state also funds is able to help you with. I can provide that link where you get all that and a flyer to the program.
Excellent. You can send it right to Lisa.
Okay, I'll do that after we talk.
Then something will actually happen to it. If you send it to me, I'll forget.
Okay, yeah, we have a difficulty connecting on the email, it seems.
It's just so crazy busy right now, which I'm very grateful for. So this is my volunteer gig and I'm a real estate agent. So the market is pretty insane. Awesome. So so far our panelists may have some questions, but so far the only question I see here is questioning why the not-for-profit rate is so much lower than the rate for the small businesses. So that's
2% versus 3%.
Yeah.
I would say that for nonprofit, I mean, they typically get grants. So at the 2% debt, it's already sort of different than what they typically get. Like they typically would apply for grants to sustain themselves or to operate. So I would say that this is a good resource for them. But we try to make special consideration for nonprofit for that reason.
James just clarified. He's questioning. James, I'm just going to allow you to talk, all right? Hold on, because we have a couple of minutes. Let me get over the James. Because I'm not, okay, James, you should be able to talk if you unmute yourself.
Yes. I'm audible?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good. Okay, so I'm actually worried about the allotment for nonprofits. Why are they only allotted 5% as opposed to 65% for small business and 30% for small landlords?
I cannot tell you exactly how the funding got to be in place. So probably the people who actually funded the program had special sort of destinations. And of course, small businesses were the ones most impacted and they are the largest number to create jobs in the city of New York. I can only tell you probably based on what contribute to the tax payroll and all that is probably small businesses.
Okay, I just said, seems odd to think nonprofits are only a 13th of the economy compared to small business, but I hear your point.
Okay, thank you, James. If anybody else, oh, do we have more? Let me just double check. Nope, that was it. So thank you both for being here. If you can hang around for a few, so because our panelists may have some questions the rest of our panelists may have some questions.
Sure.
And I'm gonna start with Kathleen Abels, I think president of the Putnam County Economic Development Corporation. Did I mess it up, Kathleen?
Right, you need to, yeah, you got it right. I just had to unmute. Yay.
Hey.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, welcome.
Great. So whereas there's been a surge in virus deaths throughout the United States, New York, particularly the Mid-Hudson region, it's holding its own. Our health metrics are excellent. They're nice and low, just where we want them to be. That being said, we must be ever vigilant. I mean, please wear your masks. I just read an article in the New York Times that said, move everything outside, move churches outside, move schools outside, close off city blocks so the kids can have classrooms outdoors. And yeah, it's not ideal because sometimes there's weather, but we're not looking for ideal right now. We're looking for adequate. So that being said, this is where we were at last week on Monday, July 6th, low risk youth sports were able to open. And then on Tuesday, July 7th, phase 4 of 4 phases began for the Mid-Hudson region. And that includes higher education, which is anything above high school and also technical schools, low risk outdoor arts and education, including zoos, gardens, nature parks, grounds of historic sites, cultural institutions, outdoor agritourism. I was on the control call today, as I am every day. There was some clarification on that. We're still restricted to non-essential gatherings, are still restricted to 50 people. So if you have an organized gathering, it's got to be 50 people or less. No exceptions for the munis, no exception for community events. Last week, the governor shut down all county fairs, including the Hamburg State Fair, which is, it hasn't happened since World War II. So that's a pretty historic event. Also included in phase 4 were indoor arts and educations, like museums, historic sites, aquariums, and media production activities. So anything for the motion picture, the music, the television industry to record, which is something that would be very desirable for Putnam County now that New York State is a film-friendly state. There was some flip-flopping last week too. On August 6th, Andrew Cuomo issued Executive Order 202.44 that continued to pause courts, it continued to pause fitness centers, and it continued to pause mall reopenings through August 5th. And then at the end of the week, he issued Executive Order 202.48, which allowed malls to open last Friday on July 10th. So, you know, hold on tight, hang on to your hats because things are changing rapidly. And again, the most important thing is for us to remain vigilant as family units or pods, whatever you want to call us. Wear your mask, be safe, keep a distance, and be well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathleen. I don't know how you retain all of that in your head. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
Always a good update. Okay, let's go to Bill Nolk, who's also on Putnam County Business Council Board and also on the board of the Putnam County Industrial Development Agency.
And I'll unmute. First of all, the Putnam County Economic Development Council is working here together with the EDC and tourism and stuff like that to move forward on so many things. The IDA is the toolbox that's offered incentives for businesses. And we're certainly looking for businesses that want to come in, and we're open. We have opportunities through the legislative options that are available to incentivize some of these businesses through tax incentives and things like that. We're moving ahead right now with the Glenida Distillery, which has been held up for many reasons during the pause, but they are working forward to getting back on track, and hopefully we'll see something where they'll look forward to opening as soon as they can, hopefully towards the end of this year. Speaking of the IDA, some people have heard that there was an effort from Albany to have IDAs from their reserve assets give out loans or grants. But I have to tell you that the Putnam County IDA, number one, doesn't have any reserve assets. And if we were to give out anything, we would have had to go on to the county and take our allocation, which we have not taken for this year yet, and which we are trying not to use because the county itself needs the assets that are available to it. So we're working with that, but we won't be giving out any grants or loans for small businesses under that particular program. And the Business Council is busy working on putting together its annual, we used to call it legislative priorities, but this year, because of the disruption and where funding is going to come from and what's going to really happen, they're really legislative goals. And one of the things that we know we have to emphasize is our communication structures, our phone cell systems and our internet access, because as people become more aware of working remotely, obviously Putnam County is a wonderful place to live, but if you need to connect with somebody outside the county, we need better telephone and internet connections, and we're going to start pressing for that. So that's where we are.
Oh, the irony of your internet coming in and out as you're talking.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about. Yes.
But it's true because, you know, even some, I mean, John Kraus from Tompkins Mapac Bank I think he's still remote, you know?
Yeah.
So we're not just talking about, you know, multi-level marketers working from home. You know, my Allstate tenant is still working from home. And a lot of that will continue. So it is really important that we get the right business infrastructure in place to be able to support that change. So thank you. Thank you, Bill. All right. And now, and did either one of you have any questions for John or Huey-Min? I think I said
Very good. Yes, you said it right.
Okay, so do either one of you have questions before I move on, or we're good? I'll go on.
Nope.
Yeah, so Bill, if you have clients who need money under $100,000 with the description I described, please send them to us.
He will, believe me. He's motivated to get some projects rolling. Okay, so last but not least, next we have Tracy Walls, who is the Putnam County Tourism Director.
Yep, that's me. Hi, everybody. So since we last Zoomed together, as Kathleen mentioned, we are in phase 4, which was a big, you know, that's where really tourism can get back to business. And as Kathleen mentioned, you know, we do have outdoor sites open, and now we have some low risk indoor sites, specifically in the county. Magazzino Italian Art opened last Friday. They did a soft opening on Thursday. And just as an aside, for those of you who may have never been there, it's an amazing venue. They have a new exhibit created by artists who were quarantined at home. And it's very, very intriguing and just beautiful to see. They're also the first venue in the country. They are using a technology from their partner museum in Italy, and it's social distancing technology. And you have a small, looks like a little small beeper. They put it in a single-use pouch on a lanyard, and you go with your group or your pod. And so it's set for you, you can stay together. But if you get too close to anyone else, you don't get a shock. You get a little tiny vibration, a buzz. And it's actually the first place in the country that's utilizing this kind of technology. So they're reaching out to other museums and other venues. And it's just a neat little side note that Putnam is at the forefront of something like this. Our restaurants are now open for indoor dining as well as outdoor dining. So we encourage everybody to support them. And as we're finally able to really welcome back visitors safely in a limited capacity. And, you know, Putnam is really in a sweet spot because we are drive time. And as tourism begins to come back to life, it is families are taking a drive for the day. They don't want to be too far from home. They might not be ready to spend the night, but they want to go somewhere. They want to get out in the country. They want to do something safe. Outdoors is considered, as Kathleen also said, the thing to do. So our bike trails and hiking trails, Breakneck is open again. Some of the trails are only open during the week because they're being overrun on the weekends, but we are really waking up and out there again, welcoming visitors. And Bill, do you know if the hotel is open?
Yes, the hotel is definitely open. So they're open and, you know, waiting now. They're available and set up to.
Terrific.
They've been working with essential workers and stuff like that during this whole period.
Okay, terrific.
So, yeah.
So more exciting things to come on that. Thank you.
Awesome.
Oh, and Jonathan, so the monastery is still closed. I had reached out to them on Friday to see what was going on out there, because I think we could all use a serenity trip. But they're not taking visitors in yet.
Yeah, they're
Still no
very.
plans on an open date.
After they had that food poisoning thing, they're just even possible.
I think the folks are there living again and they're studying, but they're just not open to the public.
Yeah.
They are doing some Zoom.
Yep. They've been doing great ones.
They've been doing a lot of good Zoom.
Yeah. Good stuff. Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you, Tracy.
thank you so much, Tracy. Before I go over to George, I have Kathleen, and if I missed it, I'm sorry. Did you mention anything about the Board of Health, New York State Board of Health coming out with the fines for individuals and businesses not wearing masks?
I didn't mention anything on that because I really haven't read that much about it. You know, I think they're starting to use high profile fines because people need to be in compliance. And there have been a surge in the number of complaints going to the health department. Some of them are just hearsay. A lot of them involve bars and restaurants. And it's not so much the business owners who aren't following the protocol, it's the patrons, you know. So similar to what you see in New York City, and the governor shut that down in a hurry. He, you know, postponed indoor dining. So again, we need to be very vigilant. So, and I talk to Sean Rogan on almost a daily basis, sometimes several times a day. So I'll clarify that with him when we speak next.
That would be great. And just wondering if there's a heavy level of enforcement going on. And I did just read about a deli in Dutchess County having to close down due to a cluster. So we can't, you know, as I stated in the beginning, Kathleen stated again, I'll say it again. Social distancing is probably even more important because getting reopened, closed, and then reopen again is going to be about 1,000,000 times worse than you could ever imagine. So it's really important for everybody to continue social distancing and wearing masks. So thank you, Tracy. Great job, both you guys and Bill. So last but not least, we have George Joyner from SCORES. George.
Thanks, Jen. You know, that was a great presentation earlier. You know, I think Huey-Min did a great job on it, and thank you, Huey-Min. And it's kind of an interesting program. I think it's the forward loan program is interesting in that it hits a specific niche that hasn't been served. And I think it will help specific folks a lot, especially those that weren't able to get the PPP and the EIDL. We're seeing a lot of, I'll just say, rubber meets the road type activity now that we're opening in phase 4 and more businesses are coming back online. And a lot of businesses are experiencing the fruit of their planning or lack of planning as they open up. It's an interesting time. We're working more and more with clients who are really looking to not just pivot, but change their business model dramatically as it becomes seemingly evident that the marketplace that they were originally planning to return to isn't there anymore. You know, an example would be a company that does concerts. I'm waiting for phase 4 to open up so we get back into the concert business and manage them. And, you know, that doesn't look like it's a great business to be in for the next 2 or 3 months. And people are making significant changes, which though is good because they're able or were able to preserve some cash and use some of the cash from the PPP program or the EIDL programs to help them negotiate that change and just reorient their direction, which has been fabulous. One note which I sent to Jen this morning, I had only received it from the SBA, is that while the EIDL program is continuing vigorously as it has, they have stopped the advance component of that program. If you recall, when you apply for an EIDL loan, you can also apply for an advance, which if granted became a grant rather than advance. It did not have to be paid back unless you happen to get a PPP loan as well. That component of the EIDL program has been stopped. Funding has been exhausted. And so the EIDL still exists, but the, if you will, free advance or the grant component has disappeared. Still, it's a terrific program. There is a fairly substantial amount of money left, as there is with the EIDL, with the PPP program. We've got about three and a half weeks left in which to apply for a PPP loan. And, you know, we're trying to encourage businesses to assess their needs, and if it's appropriate solution, act on it. The lenders or the banks, if you will, as agents for the SBA and the EIDL programs are becoming very responsive. Turnaround time is very fast, amazingly so with a couple of the clients I've worked with, literally in less than a week from application to fund receipt, which is pretty impressive. And, you know, I think the key is to continue to assess the future as best you can and accommodate to the new world. That's what we're living in, and I don't know that that's going to revert back to the old world soon, if ever. And so thinking out of the box and trying to use your crystal ball as best you can is critical these days, and solicit the help and advice of organizations like Jonathan's and all. It's a great resource, and you know, we wish everybody the best of luck and success, and you know, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Great. Thank you so much, George. Lisa Caslin, our communications director, is on here. Lisa, do you have anything that you'd like to say before we wrap up?
No, I appreciate the comments from everybody. As you know, Jen, we're just focusing on helping our members to rebuild right now. And, you know, we want to support tourism. We want to keep the money in the county. So anything that we can do together with Tracy, I think is great.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, well, everybody, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for people at home that will be watching this later tomorrow, next week, or whatnot. Any questions, we will include all the contact information so that you have access to go directly with any questions that you may have. I was really happy to see two banks on the call today. That's great. Mapac Bank and Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union were both in the house. So thank you for tuning in. And I will talk to you all real soon. And if you need any assistance with anything regarding reopening your business, or any concerns or questions, or you're struggling getting PPE, please reach out. info@putnamcountybusinesscouncil.com, and our website probably has the answers or the most relevant updated source of answers as well, and that is putnamcountybusinesscouncil.com. We also are, after almost a 2-year hiatus of bringing on new members, we are actually in a membership drive mode, just so that we can keep up the momentum of supporting the businesses the way that we have through this COVID crisis. I think businesses are going to need as much support as possible going forward. And obviously a lot of that was also thanks to the team that is on the call today, but Business Council has really been here and servicing businesses 24/7. We did beforehand, however, we've really kicked it into high gear. So we do have a membership level that starts at $50, because we are aware that, you know, there's some businesses that have thrived. There are unfortunately some businesses that have closed, and some businesses that have cash flow issues. And even at the $50 level, if that's something you don't think you can afford right now, but you would like membership benefits, you can reach out to me directly. And that's Jen, Jenn, at putnamcountybusinesscouncil.com, and I'd be happy to work something out with you. So sayonara, everybody, and thank you all so much. And make sure everybody gets out in some sunshine today. Thanks a lot. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Oh,
Take
it's
care.
not possible, Jennifer. I've got COVID.
All right, that's not possible. You have COVID. We'll try to get out in your yard. That would be good.
I don't have a yard.
Wow, I'm sorry to hear that, James. So hopefully you will be feeling better real soon. And if there's something we can do for you, please reach out.